Right, 8 March 2021, and I'm joined by Mr. Tinashe Jonas, President of Ideal Zimbabwe. How are you, sir?
As usual, it's a privilege and a big honor to be on Zimbabwe Media.
Right, that's fantastic, and thank you very much, sir. And I really appreciate having you here every week. So I want us to go straight into the discussion. You are aware that there were new sanctions or a renewal of the sanctions that was done last week by Mr. Joe Biden. You made a video before his election, before his inauguration, asking him not to renew those sanctions. How do you feel renewal?
I'm disappointed, but I was expecting that because the reason why the sanctions were put in the first place, if there's a change of government, then they will remove the sanctions. So I knew that the chances of renewal were very high.
Okay, so these sanctions were renewed on 3 March.
Yeah.
What are some of the effects of these sanctions? Do you think these sanctions are hurting people, ordinary people?
Sanctions are an economic embargo. They are a punishment. So we had when there was some challenges in the US, and then the US government said Zimbabwe is referred to Zimbabwe as one of their adversaries, but they purport to say it's targeted sanctions. But when they said that, they said Zimbabwe is a adversary, is an enemy of US. So they should not fool people that sanctions are for targeted people. Sanctions are for the whole country.
Sorry, Mr. Jonas, I think we're having a serious network issue here. Can you please continue?
Yeah, I mean, when you sanction a few individuals, that can't be called sanctions. What they've done in, for example, right now, the Joe Biden administration, what they've done in Saudi Arabia, those are not sanctions. They've actually targeted 76 citizens and effect travel restrictions. I can say visa restrictions. That is the targeted, if you want to say targeted sanctions in Saudi Arabia, due to the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist, on 2 October 2018. And the US, the Office of the Director of Intelligence for the US, they've submitted an intelligence report to the effect that the crown prince of Saudi Arabia ordered the killing. But surprisingly and shockingly, they didn't give the prince. He's not on the targeted list, and the country is not on sanctions. Why? Because the US are getting oil from Saudi Arabia. So the sanctions are to protect US interests. So their intelligence concluded the prince ordered the killing of the journalist. But in Zimbabwe, the sanctions were effected without an intelligence report from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence in America, whether the CIA, nothing. There was never any intelligence report submitted to that effect. But the results are hugely different. So by nature, interests, the US is always protecting their interests. They are not protecting Zimbabweans' interests. Every country is always protecting its national interests. So those Zimbabweans who believe that the sanctions by America is to enable democracy and economic policies that will resuscitate our economy, those Zimbabweans are misguided, they are mischievous, because the US is known. Look at what they did in Afghanistan. Look at what they did in Iraq. They invaded Iraq on the pretext that there was weapons of mass destruction, and they played a role which is the role that the United Nations was supposed to play. They put the country, they destroyed the country, and they admitted that there were no weapons of mass destruction. And Gaddafi, I mean, their president is normal, was hanged. They don't have any policy. Look at the US policy in Venezuela. They created their own puppet opposition, and at the end of the day, the crisis is managed to prolong whilst they are milking the oil. What is happening in Libya? Libya is one of the best economies in Africa. What happened in Libya? And the crisis is well managed, it's prolonged, they are milking the oil.
Okay, so Mr. Jonas, I want us to go through the statement that was issued here by the White House on 3 March. And I want us to be very specific, because if we talk in general terms, we might miss what these guys are saying. Okay. So they're saying on March 6, 2003, by Executive Order 13288, the President declared a national emergency and blocked the property of certain persons pursuant to the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to deal with the unusual and extraordinary threats to the foreign policy of the United States constituted by the actions and policies of certain members of the government of Zimbabwe and other persons to undermine Zimbabwe's democratic processes or institutions. Those actions and policies had contributed to the deliberate breakdown in the rule of law in Zimbabwe, to politically motivated violence and intimidation in the country, and to political and economic instability in the Southern African region. Order 13, sorry, I think I need to go a bit higher here. On November 22, 2005, the President issued Executive Order 13391 to take additional steps with respect to the national emergency declared in Executive Order 13288 by ordering the blocking of property of additional persons undermining democratic processes or institutions in Zimbabwe. On July 25, 2008, the President issued Executive Order 13469, which expanded the scope of the national emergency declared in Executive Order 13288 and authorized the blocking of property of additional persons undermining democratic processes or institutions in Zimbabwe. The actions and policies of certain members of the government of Zimbabwe and other persons to undermine Zimbabwe's democratic processes or institutions continue to pose an unusual and extraordinary threat to the foreign policy of the United States. For this reason, the national emergency declared on 6 March 2003 and the measures adopted on the date on November 22, 2008 and on July 28, 2008 to deal with the emergency must continue to effect beyond 6 March 2021. Therefore, in accordance with Section 202D of the National Emergencies Act, I am continuing for 1 year the national emergency declared in Executive Order 13288. This notice shall be published in the Federal Register and transmitted to Congress. Joseph R. Biden Jr., the White House, March 3, 2021. You can see that they have given 1 year. Is this not an opportunity for Idi Mnangagwa to sort out these issues with a new president coming into office?
All right. This is politics, and in politics, what is said is sometimes, most of the time, it's not exactly what it means, because the breakdown of the rule of law, the violence which happened maybe during the land invasions and stuff. How many years now after that, the war incident? But they are keeping on, renewing by a year by a year. Joe Biden is fresh in the office, but to me, it's a continuation of the Obama administration. To me, it's a third term of Barack Obama in office, because Joe Biden's political career was resuscitated by Barack Obama, and he still is grateful. And I can say Obama was the campaign manager of Joe Biden, so I'm not surprised. And even their new their ambassador to UN, their new secretary of defense, they were questioned by Congress committees, their respective committees, about how you can tell that for you to be effective in your position, you must answer to the Congress committee how effectively you are going to deal with China. Then it defeats the purpose. To me, I think it's clear that the Democrats, they are warmongers. They love war. They are bully, and that's how they are. Look at Donald Trump. He never had any war. He had nothing. But now, Democrats, to me, they are very bully, and Biden is a continuation of Obama administration. Nothing changed.
Okay, but are we not failing to deal with the issue? What needs to be done here to remove these sanctions? Because sanctions can be removed. You saw what happened in Myanmar. They removed them at some point. And okay, I think in the case of Zimbabwe, they've given 1 year. This is a very short period of time. It means they're getting close to removing these sanctions, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. I want to answer you on that they are close to removing the sanctions. My own understanding is that these sanctions have been extended by a year. Every year they renew with 12 months. It looks like they are ready to remove, but I don't think that's the case, because when they say these individuals are undermining the democratic institutions of Zimbabwe, to me, that statement is not honest. Why? Because the democracy in Zimbabwe is judged by the constitution of the country and the judicial of the. So if US condemns everything in Zimbabwe, in other words, we should then use the constitution, the constitution of America, to, if we are to make them happy. I think we need to adopt the American constitution, and then that's how they can then measure us according to their definition of democracy. Because as long we are following our constitution, then I don't think it's appropriate for any country to say we are not following. There's no rule of law in our country.
Okay, what about undermining democratic institutions? Is there anything that can be reformed in Zimbabwe?
Okay, maybe you can give me an example so that we have got a case scenario.
Okay, the judiciary in Zimbabwe is not independent. It's taking instructions from the executive.
Okay. I think that's an opinion. Give me a real case.
You want me to give you a case of when the judiciary took instructions?
Yes.
Okay, let's look at the case of Thokozani Kupe and her acting presidency of the MDCT.
Mm-hmm.
That is a clear case where someone who lost the election as an opposition candidate went on to take votes from another candidate.
All right. Okay. Thank you for that case. Okay. I think let's not confuse one thing here. There's always a desired outcome, depending with the litigants in a case. Okay. In this case, it depends. As I always say, that in Zimbabwe, everything is political. Those who support MDC alliance, they would say the judiciary is captured because they lost the case. I don't think any Zimbabwean, any sober Zimbabwean would disagree that the way Nelson Chamisa took over power, it was illegitimate. I don't think this needs. It's not a political matter or political opinion, legal opinion. Chamisa took over power unconstitutional, and I mean before even the takeover, the appointment of Nelson Chamisa to the post of vice president. Remember, there was the Congress. The Congress was done, and after the Congress, Nelson Chamisa lost to leader Douglas Monzora. They were contesting the post of Secretary General, and Nelson Chamisa lost, clearly lost. This was the Congress, the highest decision-making body of the party, and then the former president Morgan Tsvangirai woke up and made this decision to appoint Nelson Chamisa to the post of vice president, unconstitutionally so. So this was the first step. This was illegal, and Chamisa went on to use that illegal appointment to jump into taking power over a coffin. Mr. Gababo, you can't deny that the way Chamisa took over power was unconstitutional. We don't need even the outcome of the court here. By reading the article of MDC and the way Chamisa took over power, it's so clear. He was coming from being a vice president for him to take over. How was he appointed to be a vice president? Again, it was illegal. So even we can agree, even for argument's sake, we can agree that Nelson Chamisa took over power legally. He was benefiting from being a vice president. How did he become a vice president? So, after losing,
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
I want you to see the sequence of events. There are two steps here which are contested. Him being a president of interim president of the party, it's contested. Then being a VP, it's contested. And the VP, you can't deny that. If we reserve the presidency of MDC Alliance, but Mr. Gambakwe, you will never deny that Chamisa was appointed the vice president illegally.
Okay, what about the other cases? Okay. A lot of young people now.
Thank you. Can you confirm Chamisa was appointed vice president illegally?
Well, that is a well-known case.
Thank you. So now
I raised it.
Okay.
As an example, as a well-known example, but I also want to take you through to a lot of other cases where people have been put and thrown in jail. They have not been given bail.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gabagwe.
Joanna Mamombe, all these.
Okay, before you run into those to have a safe landing. So, do you agree that this case scenario we took confirms that the judiciary is not captured.
Well, the argument is being made that
Do
you
you
cannot have a
agree?
candidate. Well, it doesn't matter whether I agree or not. What I'm saying is that it's being made
Okay.
as a case that
Okay.
a candidate in an election cannot wake up one day and get the votes of the candidate they contested against.
Thank you so much. The way you wake up is like you just wake up and then you come back home with votes from a restaurant. Yet there were processes, which legal processes, and Chamisa FDC Alliance had its own lawyers. The matter was argued. But people, they are trying to ignore everything there and use the word wake up. So that it was so sudden, because when you wake up, you can take even 10 seconds, you know. So it's like that, it was just a sudden event to circumvent the whole legal processes. That's a political rhetoric. It's a political rhetoric. Maybe you can go to another. Let me allow another case scenario. This one you have failed. Let's next.
Okay, let's take your own case. You were in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
You committed no crime,
Okay.
and you were thrown in jail for weeks without trial.
All right. Okay.
Is that just?
All right. Thank you so much. At least I think this case I know it very much because it's my case. But here I should be a progressive Zimbabwean. I should not talk from a political point of view. When I was arrested, if I'm not mistaken, less than 2 weeks, the state was ready to proceed with the trial. But my lawyers advised me that we need to challenge the constitutionality of the act that I was being charged, because my case was undermining and insulting the office of the president. So my lawyers advised me that we need to take this case to the highest court in the land. So it was, and then our application was thrown out on technicality. The state wanted to proceed with the trial, but we wanted to take it to the highest court.
Okay, but do you admit that the whole reason why you were arrested was a bogus charge?
All right. I won't answer this politically. If I answer this politically, I will be the leader of an opposition party and commenting against another party that I'm contesting against. My analysis will be political. Let me answer as a private citizen. The charge that I was I was charged with. The act is within the constitution of Zimbabwe. So when the police arrest you, accusing you of committing a crime, and they read your rights and everything, and your lawyers, they advise you that this charge is genuine. What we need is to it like they felt like we need to fight. So that it infringes, because as an opposition, you have got a right to freedom of speech and everything. But this charge was not saying I'm not allowed to criticize the presidium. In this case, President Mnangagwa and Vice President Chiwenga. I'm allowed to do that, but they are saying you don't need to insult. You can say your views. You can whether you say they've destroyed the country, whatever terms you can use. You don't need to insult, because you motivate other citizens to also see him in that light. Yet his office is protected by law. He must be respected to do his duties. But if people are insulting him, you do demonize his brand, and he won't perform. People will never be cooperative. People will lose confidence in him. So the law is saying don't insult. Do not insult. But you're allowed to say anything. And Mr. Gambakwe, you can agree. Leader Nelson Chamisa, Tendai Biti, and this clown Job Scala, they say a lot, week in, week out, about the ZANU PF leadership, about the president. They say a lot. And if you can calculate from today the frequency of insulting the president and the frequency of being arrested or being charged, I'm sure you will tell me that the difference is a lot. A lot. There's no president in Africa, probably in the world, who is insulted more than ED. I can declare that. Okay. You can go to social media.
Take your point.
Even you can see if ED is giving a speech, maybe a live speech, count the comments out of 100 and calculate those which are insulting with even ghost accounts. You might be shocked that the greater percentage, the insults are above 50%.
Okay, so let us agree that sanctions are hurting Zimbabweans, ordinary Zimbabweans. Yourself and myself, we are here in foreign countries because we cannot make a living in our own country. Is Mnangagwa doing enough to remove these sanctions?
All right, a brilliant question. Let me create a context for how we can extract a good answer from this question. I think, to me, it's a problem. To me, it's an admission of failure from me as a citizen, admission of failure from every Zimbabwean. Why? Because everything starts with the ED, ends with the ED. ED must be, if it was in class, a class monitor, it doesn't mean that for you to study and when you go home, you study hard, you pass, you are ready for the examination. It doesn't need you to look up to the class monitor and even the teacher. I can even pick up a teacher. There are students who are passing without even a teacher, reading and studying from home and doing the assignments and writing the examinations. Without it, our problem is that ED is punished for becoming a president. So everyone is punishing ED. ED, we want water everywhere in the country. ED, we want health care to work today. To me, we are over expecting ED will never be a super human being. He has got 2 legs. He has got 10 fingers. He has got 10 toes. He can't be all over the country. We need to complement ED as the whole country. If ED is left with the 2 years to be as the president of Zimbabwe, we all need to put our heads together. It's not a punishment that you are a president and you must perform miracles. People can talk of corruption, can talk of anything. It will end with ED. I don't know how his constitutional duty, how he must fight corruption. Because to me, corruption, every Zimbabwean, there are 2 people when corruption is happening. Either if there's a land baron who is selling land, there's a willing buyer. And there are other people who know that this land is not gazetted. The councillors, the full council, and the people they ignore. Everyone comes to party when bulldozers are coming to destroy the houses. I think we are playing hide and seek as a nation. We are so much addicted to finger pointing, to blame game. While ED, if you check almost every 2 weeks, ED is involved with something. Okay, I want to pick. Let me pick Gambakwe Media. ED is accused of promoting corruption in Zimbabwe by generality of opposition. When ED's government is wanting to arrest someone called Smelly Dube, I saw a headline on Gambako Media saying ED goes for Grace Mugabe's Ali.
Yeah.
So that headline is showing us that ED is not that good, is not a good guy. It's like he's revengeful. I mean, and this lady was threatened by Owen Mutangube and the minister July Moyo. I mean, a whole minister, two whole ministers, including a minister of central intelligence, threatening a woman on telephonically. Owen Mube is running intelligence in Zimbabwe, and I don't know how he can threaten a woman, because within seconds he can finish that woman. A person who is powerful will never threaten anyone. The word threat, normally it's someone who is trying to intimidate. A lion can't threaten a rabbit. It can't. So everything in Zimbabwe is coined around politics. If Grace, she becomes a widow, she becomes a victim of Mnangagwa, and then people will say, sorry. If then Mnangagwa doesn't touch those people, it's like in ZANU-PF, they don't arrest each other. It's catch and release. And seriously, I'm happy that I'm not ED. I don't know how ED is coping. I don't know how he doesn't get high blood pressure, collapse, die. He must be very strong.
Okay. Maybe. So, Mr. Jonas, I'm hearing you, but let's go back to my question.
Yes.
Is Mnangagwa doing enough?
All right.
Ever since this past year, what has he done to try to remove these sanctions besides complaining?
Okay. Thank you so much. Because the spotlight, to me, when a country is failing, it's collective. The first collective failure, Mnangagwa is not a president by his own choice. There's no country that you can choose to be a president, your personal idea, and then tomorrow you're in the office. If Mnangagwa is a president of Zimbabwe, surely the people who assisted him to become a president, whether people they say in a so-called coup or in the 2018 elections, everyone who enabled Mnangagwa to be in the office must be Zimbabwe. And those Zimbabweans won't take the blame if Mnangagwa is in the office. Secondly, if Mnangagwa is sitting in the office of the president, why is Tinashe Jonas not in that office? Why is Mr. Gambakwe not in that office? Who is most capable? Why is Chamisa not there? Maybe people will say, the judicial is captured, the army is captured. Why is Mnangagwa able to capture all those organizations? Why is Chamisa, why is the BT not capturing the judiciary? Because even the judiciary of Zimbabwe is free to be captured, the army is open to be captured. Why is BT not capturing the army? And we don't ask ourselves these questions. We don't. So let's assume ED is good at capturing the judiciary, the army, the CIO, everything. These organizations are full of people, if not thousands or millions. If we combine the army, the CIO, the police, the prisons, we come up with over 1 million of people. And everyone is saluting Mnangagwa, everything. Then Mnangagwa, he deserves to be a president. If he knows how to capture everything, then he deserves to be a president. We need to honor him. All I'm trying to say, Mr. Gambako, is there are people who think they deserve to be in the office and they are not there. And what is happening is gesture politics. Mnangagwa must have gesture in the eyes, gesture in the shoes, everywhere, so that change of government. I'm not defending Mnangagwa, but Mnangagwa has got weaknesses and strengths. You must not define our destiny. We need Zimbabwe is a participative democracy. There are people in the villages who are doing what we call hume. People can just call each other in villages and say, let's go and help our neighbor today with whatever, cultivating whatever. And they're doing that without applying to the government, without anything. There are cooperatives in Zimbabwe. There's WhatsApp groups. People are even clubs for women. They put 1,000 to each, 100 to each, and the government has never arrested anyone. Zimbabweans are allowed, even in South Africa, to create an investment fund, build a company in Zimbabwe or whatever it is. But we are policing and monitoring ED. That time we are monitoring ED, it's a clear indication we are doing nothing. Let's look at South Africa, for example. 500 billion, if I'm not mistaken, disappeared. And in Zimbabwe, the late president, Mnangagwa, just announced 15 billion is missing. No one has got any transaction, any paper of that money that is missing. From where? From CBZ, from Reserve Bank, from Chianzwa Direct. It's missing as money. It's missing as the diamond. No one knows. Just an announcement. That 15 billion, it's making noise up to now. When in South Africa, we have got 500 billion. That just disappeared. And we don't have noise in South Africa. We are here. It's not a headline story anyway. But
okay,
these two scenarios, but this money was accounted for, and auditors saw that the money is missing, and some people are even being arrested for it. In Zimbabwe, no one can tell you that 15 billion is missing from where. Is it missing from one transaction? Are they multi transactions? How the money was it taken over a period of 1 year, 10 years? No one knows. But it's a political matter. 15 billion is missing. 15 billion is missing. In South Africa, 500 billion is missing. There's no noise. It's politics. Right now, let me give an example of MDC. That they are Jecha boys. I'm putting Mnangagwa in the dark now so that I put spotlight on MDC. MDC are running councils in Zimbabwe. And there's demolitions. They've never gone to court to stop any demolition. Now, there is a Chilonga irrigation project. They are taking center stage. Chamisa dispatching a team of 5 or so to do fact finding. While in Harare, where Chamisa drives every day, people are losing money to land barons. There are demolitions. Last time Chamisa was asking his mayor, Jacob Mafume, these people who are here are sent by what? The mayor said, no, I don't know. And someone who was part of the team said no, gave an opposite answer. And we don't have headlines of that. Nothing. But all the way to Chilonga, are we saying there are no Zimbabweans who have got challenges in Harare, where MDC is headquartered? But people, they choose to drive. When we look for fame, when we look for spotlight, when we look for votes, when we are campaigning for 5 years, to me, Mnangagwa is better performing politically in Zimbabwe. And opposition leaders are not even donating wheelchairs just to someone in Gokwe, to donate one wheelchair, to take a blind person who need maybe attention of the eyes. Nothing. Have you ever heard Tinashe Jonas, Bezari? Have you ever heard a Nelson Chamisa Bezari just to sponsor 2 students in a year? In a year. Just from poor background.
Mr. Jonas, I hear you, but I want to go back to the question.
Yes.
In Uganda, just before the elections,
Yes.
over 60 people were shot dead.
100%.
But there are no sanctions.
Thank you.
In Southern Africa, you can look at Mozambique. There are no sanctions. There's shooting going on.
100%.
In Zimbabwe, there is peace in terms of everyday life, but there is sanctions. The things that are needed to fix these sanctions are very small.
Okay.
Why is Mnangagwa failing to fix compared to a guy who just shot 60 people? Why does he have sanctions and the other guy doesn't have?
Thank you so much. I want to show you that by giving example of Uganda, you already exonerated ED from failing to take out the sanctions. Why? 6 people are shot in Zimbabwe. You go to Uganda, the president of Uganda, Museveni, says, Zimbabwe, you are young boys, I will multiply by 10. Yeah, I will multiply by 10. No sanctions. Why no sanctions? Because the Museveni is in good books with America. They are sponsoring his army. I mean, in disguise, to say he must be fighting, he must be having military capabilities to fight Al-Shabaab in Somalia. That's a pretext. Museveni is their right-hand man. To work around there in Rwanda, somewhere, to work around the resources in Democratic Republic of Congo. Some people would wonder why Rwanda has got a sudden economic boom when there's no gold to talk of, no diamond to talk of. You know, in Central Africa, there between Rwanda, Uganda, the resources are in DRC, which is bleeding, and the economy is suffering. Because there's always Ebola, which is made in the laboratory.
But why can Mnangagwa be friends with America?
All right, a good question. Mnangagwa is fully on the call what engagement. The late Minister of Foreign Affairs, General Sibusiso Moyo, was doing his best to engage. We heard the British ambassador saying, I think they were in a meeting for 4 hours or over 4 hours with Sibusiso Moyo. Imagine, that's an effort. What is happening is Zimbabwe crossed the American interest in 2 ways. Number one, the DRC war. Zimbabwe was innocently defending a constitutionally appointed government. But Zimbabwe didn't know that the American interests are vested in the there will be destabilization in DRC forever because there is mineral rich. And that's the first line of Zimbabwe crossed. The second line Zimbabwe crossed was the land reform. America is not that upset that Zimbabwe gave out land. It's not that upset. It's afraid because the other countries like South Africa, the land reform became a topic of debate. And ask yourself, President Ramaphosa enacted that act of land redistribution in South Africa. And Donald Trump tweeted that if South Africa can follow suit, they will suffer the consequences. And if you're right now, South Africa is the South African government led by ANC is temporarily forgotten about the land issue now. Its opposition, Comrade Malema, who is now vocal about land reform, because South Africa now knows that if they give back the land, sanctions will automatic, because they're afraid that the whole Africa would follow suit. Zimbabwe is an example. It's an exemplar, so that in Africa they will never dare. It's not a matter of reforms, because if people were shot August 6, are we talking of other people being shot again last year? So far, we have gone maybe 3 months, a quarter of the year now. Are we talking about people being shot dead, 2 or 3? Nothing. But the sanctions are renewed in 2021 when there's no incident to talk about. Joe Biden started work probably around January, if I'm not mistaken, maybe around 2021 January. His administration started work this year. But is he judging Zimbabwe from last year when Trump was a president? Because last year we were on a renewed year again by the Trump administration, which expired on 20 January when a new administration came into power. So let's not talk about last year because we were punished by the Trump administration. Now, Joe Biden is in power for almost 2 months. And he's renewing sanctions up to next year. We are not being punished for last year because we were already punished. It's clear that he is not considering anything. There's no incident to talk about that he can guarantee that can justify the renewal of the new Zigera Act, because it's 2 months after we have come out of another punishment of a year.
Okay, Mr. Jonas, the point I'm trying to make is that the human rights in Zimbabwe are not the West in Africa.
Yeah.
And the issues that are being raised are very minor. What is lacking is the leadership to convince the Americans to remove the sanctions. Do you disagree with me?
Okay, I disagree. Why? Zimbabwean leadership are not given an opportunity to defend their story. They read in papers that the sanctions are renewed. There's no engagement. There's nothing to present. America talks of democracy. They want in Zimbabwe to have democracy according to their expectations, but they are dictating on Zimbabwe. At least the Congress should have called whether the Minister of Foreign Affairs, whether they must a delegation from Zimbabwe was supposed to be listened to, because this is a new administration. At least I gave you an example of the Crown Prince. Okay, right now, Mr. Gambakwe, maybe you don't know maybe you might not be aware of a trending story right now in the US and globally of Prince Harry. Prince Harry and his wife, they were on Oprah Winfrey yesterday, and they ran away from the royal family in the UK. And the wife was saying the Queen's family were discussing about how dark my child will be, and they are worried. And she suffered racism, and she ran away. Their income was frozen, and racism by the royal family of UK. But in Zimbabwe, UK and the US together, they are saying we love Zimbabweans. Everything we do, we love Zimbabweans. When they are torturing their own grandson, when they are torturing their own Makoti, let's be honest. Let's wake up, Africans.
Okay, but the point I'm trying to make to you, Mr. Jonas, which I have gone back to, is that you don't expect the Americans to say, let's come to you to listen to you about your sanctions. Right. Has Mnangagwa sent a delegation even to the American embassy in Zimbabwe to discuss the sanctions?
Thank you so much. I hope you appreciate that the American ambassador, the former American ambassador, was very vocal, and in US, by US law, you are not allowed to do what he was doing. He was interfering in Zimbabwe politics. There is an ambassador. An ambassador is obviously engaged in one way or the other, but there is a report that he is going to send to his government. That report he writes alone. You won't co-author the report with the Zimbabwean government. And the Americans, they are obviously listening to their ambassador, because the ambassador is representing the American interest. They are not going to say to Zimbabwean government, give us a report and to see how far you have gone with what we have told you. Remember earlier on in another previous discussion, I said Zimbabwe must not stoop so low to be told that do 1, 2, 3, and then America comes and say, okay, we are inspecting you. we give you 5 out of 10. In that scenario, we have thrown out our sovereignty. I can allow ED any mistake he can, but he must not compromise our sovereignty. We can fight each other in Zimbabwe. I can say things that ED doesn't want to hear. He can punish me. We can do anything on our own in Zimbabwe, but we do not allow foreign interference. So I said earlier on, in trying to engage America, Zimbabwe must not lose its balls as a country. We must not lose our independence. There is a bold line between compromising your sovereignty and our foreign policy. What we need is domestic policy. Foreign policy is secondary to domestic policy. A president is elected, mandated by Zimbabweans for domestic policy, for national interest. National interests are domestic policy. Foreign policy is the second chapter after putting your national interest, your domestic policy in order. Foreign policy is how you interact with your neighbors. But first, you need a good interaction amongst your family. So ED must protect our sovereignty, must defend our constitution. That's the mandate of his office. There is always going to be hostile countries. There's always friendly countries. China is one of the friendly countries. We can count so many countries that are friendly to Zimbabwe, and it's still under foreign policy. Our foreign policy is not limited to US and UK. We have got a number of countries that the government is winning, and those which are still hostile, they are still engaging them. I'm a nationalist. I believe we need to love one another. We need to support one another. ED is a Zimbabwean that deserves our support. In his winning, in his failing. ED is a better president compared to Robert Mugabe. ED is commissioning buses. ED is how many projects right now, dams that is constructing, infrastructural projects. People are choosing to ignore. Robert Mugabe was cushioned by donor projects because Zimbabwe at that time it had a good relationship with the West. When Mugabe was flying to have coffee with the Queen, ED is inherited almost a shambolic foreign policy, and we must give him credit. He is trying, and progress in Zimbabwe. People, let's not ignore. We must cherish. ED is better than Mugabe in any respect. People, whoever is trying to say anything factually on the ground, the few years ED is in power against the project he's undertaking is far much better.
Okay, Mr. Jonas, we are almost on 1 hour, and I would like us to bring this discussion to an end. And my takeaway from what you are saying is that ED has not done anything wrong. He has done what he's supposed to be doing. He's leading, but Zimbabweans are not coming to his support or to his defense. And from my own side, I feel that ED has not done enough to convince the Americans to remove these sanctions. I think what ED has done and what Zimbabwe is being accused of is less than what other countries that have done worse have done, and they don't have sanctions. So let us say you were ED, you've got 1 year before the decision is considered again. What can be done? Given what you've said, we have taken your points. Now tell us what ED can do between now and next year.
All right. I refuse ED. When everything starts with the ED and ends with the ED, we don't have a country to talk about. I want us to talk of the nation of Zimbabwe. The nation of Zimbabwe is defined through its citizenry. The people of Zimbabwe, that's the Zimbabwe we are talking about. ED is a brand ambassador, is a political face of Zimbabwe. Now, when you are choosing Mr. Gambakwe, you know you are in the media. If you choose me to be the brand ambassador of Gambakwe Media, it's not fair that when Gambakwe Media collapses, then I should be the one to blame. There is management, there is security, there is the financial department, there is the marketing department. A nation, a person working in Gokwe is important in the matrix of Zimbabwe, in the governance of Zimbabwe, because he can even visit his councillor and ask him for the progress happening in the area. People are allowed to knock at their councillor's house, at their councillor's office, at local government, and put them to task. People are allowed even to demonstrate, if it's a peaceful demonstration, that there's no to demonstrate for service delivery, even at council level. But if our leaders are not even put to task or accountability, who is to blame? Leaders are at our disposal. They are mandated by us. But we are, as long we are concentrating on ED, we don't have a nation. And ED is a human being. We are then saying, if ED has got weaknesses, the whole country must go to the dogs.
Okay, so, let me ask you a question another way, yes. Mr. Jonas.
Yes.
Let's say at your house,
yeah,
you hear a thief coming from outside the house.
Yeah.
Who is going to stand up to look, you or your wife?
A good question. A normal society like Zimbabwe, women are fighting for gender equality. So I'm giving you this history. Our women are fighting for gender equality. I don't know if this gender equality is for other departments, but not other departments. We should be.
I don't think that department is for the woman, you know.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gambakwe. There is objectivity versus subjectivity. We tend to run to subjectivity. We always avoid objectivity in Zimbabwe. Let's not undermine women out there. There are women who some have got that well trained in boxing, some in karate, some they know how to shoot, but it's a tradition. It's always thought that a man must be tough, a man must have money. That's why women are cheating like never before now, because the men we wear a mask of a superhero. There's nothing for your wife to earn more money than you. There's nothing for your wife to have more intelligence than a man, and even run the house. But we will rather divorce a woman who is a thinker because we think she's disrespectful. I have realized that women of Zimbabwe, they think they are hard workers. They are threatening us as men. Hence, there's too much women abuse in Zimbabwe. And at the end of the day, women are cheating because they can even forward their ideas to the men. The men would ignore them because he doesn't want to succeed and say, credit the women. Women are now terrific. All over the world, women are taking over and men are threatened. They threat to... yes.
Yeah, the reason why I was asking you that question is in all the discussions that we're having.
Before I forget, happy Women's Day to the women of Zimbabwe.
Okay, that's great. And well, that's a great day. I think we should have a feature on that. We'll bring a woman to come and talk about this. But the point I was trying to make is that you are not giving the responsibility to Mnangagwa.
Okay.
To do something. He's currently, ever since he started, he traveled around quite a bit. And then he just stopped.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gambakwe. I like that. I think, okay. The word ED now, right as we speak, ED is appointed the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I mean, Comrade Frederick Shawa, who is a tried and tested diplomat, because he was in UN there. But people chose and picked a scandal that he was once involved. I mean, so ED, there's a Minister of Foreign Affairs. We have got ministers around ED that we are. So when ED must perform, must travel the world, basically it means the foreign service is not doing its job. I forgot. There's an African president. I don't know if it's Magufuli of Tanzania. There's a president who has not traveled. He has traveled quite a few times, more than less than everyone in the world. A president can even finish his term without going outside his country. And we must not then jump and say that's underperformance.
But there are sanctions. There are sanctions. Something must be done because it's not an ordinary situation.
Okay, Mr. Gambakwe, do you agree that the government of Zimbabwe it doesn't start and end with ED? The ministers, ED is there to policy the ministers.
Okay, which minister in Zimbabwe has ever done anything besides Mthuli Ncube?
Okay. You know why Mthuli Ncube? You know why you are mentioning Mthuli Ncube? The finance ministry has got a lot of spotlight, especially the budget presentation, the monetary policies and everything. They are prominent. Ministries like the Foreign Affairs, Home Affairs. A Minister of Agriculture, for example, when people hear Pumvudza, they will just dismiss it, and they will limit his performance to Pumvudza. If the Minister of Agriculture is deep in Dotito, giving people A2 or whatever, the media won't drive it to Dotito there with him. The media is normally concentrated in Harare. If you see press conferences, media coverages, everything, mostly it's Harare and other urban centers. Our media house, you never hear a media house in Zimbabwe with a branch in Gokwe. They don't do that. They center the news is in Harare. That's why everything is Harare. The focus is in Harare. Mr. Gambakwe, we need to motivate our ministers, to motivate our member of parliaments. If we condemn them to zero, we won't have a nation to run. Remember, ED is forced by the Constitution of Zimbabwe to almost appoint his cabinet from members of the parliament. So ED is disabled because there's an area to choose. And to be a member of parliament in Zimbabwe, even if you are not educated, a minister is directly from the parliament of Zimbabwe to executive. I think it's almost 5 or less ministers that is allowed outside of parliament. That is very limiting. Unless ED was allowed to run it to anywhere, even to run it to Zimbabwe and in South Africa, to appoint a minister in London, a Zimbabwean in diaspora, is not allowed. And no one checks that. At the end, it will be ED, his ministers are useless. I want a scenario where even if, let's say, our ministers are performing 85%, I want a scenario that we motivate them. Our member of parliament from ZANU, from MDC, anyone who is a member of parliament, we need to motivate these guys. Wherever we feel like they are not performing good, we need to engage them. Because they are representing Zimbabweans who voted for them. I don't think it's nice to condemn our people because it's like a national team. I've heard some Zimbabweans watching the Zimbabwe national team losing. So if you look at the comments, you cry for the boys. And the boys, they give their all just because they've lost. Useless. Wara wara. Wara wara. As Zimbabwean wants 100% victory, they want it all or nothing.
Okay. I think, Mr. Jonas, let us bring this to an end. And I saw a question here, someone asking if Mnangagwa is going to be the vice president. I think you can go and watch Simba's Kanza. He's live now when you finish. I think that is a serious joke. There's no way they are going to bring Mnangagwa to be vice president. So just to answer that question, maybe it's like an entertainment for the night. Or just about to sleep. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say, Mr. Jonas, before we end this?
What I want to say is our national team, the team captain is called ED. The vice captain is the General Chiwenga. Then it comes the ministers, then it comes the judges, comes the mayors, the councillors. This is all what we have for the moment. And we should cherish these people. We should encourage these people. We should cheer them. We should whistle. We should make any noise we can and urge these people. This condemning, Tinashe, Jonas, I'm not in office. So even if I can condemn these people, then what? I think we've got a problem. Seriously, we have got a problem. We don't like ourselves. We hate ourselves. We hate our country. We hate everything. You need, even if there's bad rain, whether you are going to try irrigation, you need to do interventional activities. We have got a national team. Let's praise it. Seriously, we are going nowhere. We are going back. The change of government, if it will happen, it will happen in 2023. Otherwise, for now, let's stop campaigning. I'm getting a lot of space, airtime space on Gambakwe media, but other political leaders are not learning from me. I don't talk of my party. I don't ask people to join I Do Zimbabwe. Even yesterday, I was on another platform being interviewed. People were asking me, why are you not campaigning? Why are you not selling yourself? I don't sell myself. For what? I told them, when we launch our manifesto, after Zeki has gazetted the election dates, that's the time to campaign. But my fellow countrymen are confused. They are campaigning every day. We need to focus on engagement, focus on development for now. Look, I'm not abusing Gambakwe media airtime. I'm not campaigning. I'm not. When time to campaign comes, it will come. Now is the time for Zimbabwe. This is not time for ZANU-PF. This is not time for MDC. This is not time for I Do Zimbabwe. That's the cancer in our society. We are too partisan instead of being nationalistic. 4 years is to talk of Zimbabwe. 4 years is to compete to build the country. 4 years is to engage each other. Then at least a year or 6 months is to campaign.
Okay, Mr. Tinashe Jonas, President of I Do Zimbabwe, thank you very much. You come here every Monday, and as I said, there is space for other people to come and have a chat. But I really enjoy talking to you, and I'll see you again next week on Monday. I hope that tomorrow I'll be able to get through Tendo. He's very passionate about the sanctions, and I haven't talked to him in a very, very long time. So maybe let's bring him here tomorrow and hear what he says about the sanctions. Thank you very much, Mr. Jonas, and to everyone who's watching on Facebook and YouTube, thank you very much and good night. Good night, Mr. Jonas.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and night to you too.